Well, Tom, I got a bit of a treat here. I was asked by somebody, do you think you can guess where I'm from? And I said, well, talk to me. And he spoke to me, and I listened, and I said, you could be from Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Oh, but you know what? There's a very slight hint of Irish there. I would say you're from Ireland. So meet Brian, was it?
Yep.
Brian Maguire.
What about you? Right, what part of Belfast are you from?
He's actually a Banbridge boy.
Oh, God almighty. From Banbridge town in the county
down
down.
in the town.
I've passed by it many times.
Yeah. Well, Tom has a great YouTube channel, Positive Belfast. You have to look it up.
Oh, listen, I still have relations in Belfast.
Well, Tom is very interested in the war, so he'd be interested in...
Which war?
All wars.
Okay.
But I've showed him this tank in the previous video here, so will be very interested to know the history, what you just told me about the tank.
Okay, right. This is a US M4 composite hull 75W with a large hatch variant. Made by the Chrysler Corporation in 1943, and then it was assigned to the 775th Tank Battalion, which was the Iowa National Guard Tank Battalion. And then it was assigned to 6th Army down to I Corps, well, as in the unit was, and it was one of the 5 tanks, because in those days the US military had 5 tanks in the platoon, and it's number 1 platoon B company. In March 1945, here on the Villa Verde Trail in northern Luzon, there was quite a long engagement by the 32nd Infantry Division, otherwise known as the Red Arrow Division, with the Japanese forces of the 14th Armor Group, more importantly. So they were under Yamashita overall, but there was 110th and various hobbled together Japanese units, and the Japanese units were to protect and defend the Salaksak passes near Maliko, Nova Vizcaya, and this tank was one of, as I say, 5 tanks assigned to the 32nd Division. The land here is not suitable to tank warfare because it's razorback ridges and quite closed ground when it comes to vegetation. From what I can figure out, and from research that I've done, the tank was proceeding up the trail sometime in early March 1945. This area here, which is under the Dar Awan Hill, which is also the US designation 507 Dog, and it was destroyed by artillery fire. And I'm going to stand up, and I don't know if you can see it. And over here, we have a large imposing ridge, which is now heavily forested, but it wasn't so well forested in 1945. And that was colloquially known by the Americans as Yamashita Ridge. Artillery engaged it. Unfortunately, we could do a small walk, but it's about 200 meters that way, is the actual original trail. Coming up from Santa Maria on the coastal plain and traveling 27 kilometers along the ridge line, then down into a valley, then up along here. And this was to attack Salaksak passes to attempt to capture the town of Santa Fe, which is at the northern headwater of the Cagayan Valley. As I say, the tank was coming up. Obviously the road, or the track, which they were driving through, and they were building, literally bulldozer, following infantrymen as they would clear out a pillbox. They would carry on building the road. So even the engineers as they built the road, driving the dozers, they were fighting as infantrymen from the cabs of their vehicles.
Good grief. Be tough going.
It was very tough going. Now the thing is, March is normally a dry season here, and most of April. But that year, it was raining cats and dogs, or Datsun cogs. Remember the old Japanese car made Nissan. They came under fire, and obviously the trail was well zeroed by the Japanese artillery. So they buttoned down, and they came over the slight rise, and then probably Japanese mortars firing for effect put the area onto. Lucky strike, some way, the tank was set on fire. Now the crew were, as far as I can figure out, the crew were all killed. And
was there just the one tank here?
there was in total the 32nd Infantry Division only had elements of the 7 up to platoon level, so that's something like 5 tanks that
5 tanks.
It was, the tanks couldn't be deployed in fire and maneuver because the ground was too.
Yeah.
I mean, to advance 50 meters, you probably had 6 or 7 prepared positions to take. They could, if they got up here, engage. However, you know, they were leaving themselves open to the fire, and well zeroed fire from, as we call it, Yamashita Ridge.
And you wouldn't see anybody anyway, it's just so thick.
Well, there was plenty. They had Piper aircraft overflying. You had the artillery observers were forward, because that comes to another part of the history of this park, this area. And they